Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Curious Owlbear, and I'm here to explore everything Dungeons & Dragons. I received a request from one of you lovely viewers for a video that goes over the classes and subclasses so you can get a feel for the gameplay of each. Now, there is a ton of information out there, so I've decided to break it up into a video for each class so we can talk about the subclasses with a little more detail. If you're new to D&D and looking for information to build your first character, then this video is for you. I'll go over the basics of building the class, its subclasses, some role-playing tips, and the feats that you can think about taking. We're starting our look at the classes with the Barbarian, but before we do, don't forget to rage smash that subscribe button to see more D&D videos in the future. Barbarians. For those who love putting themselves on the front lines, the tactically minded, and those quick to anger. Barbarians can rage.
Okay, so this is the first time I've done this, so hopefully I won't do this wrong.
I'm going to punch.
I would like to rage.
Which enables the Barbarian to reduce incoming damage, and adding a little bit of extra damage to each of the Barbarian's melee hits. Barbarians are low in intelligence, but high in strength and constitution. They shine in close quarters combat, though they often only have one answer when posed with conflict: smash it. Barbarians usually do not wear armor. Instead, their armor class benefits from their dexterity and constitution modifiers. They usually have the most hit points, as they're the only class that gets to use a 12-sided hit die. In most cases, you'll want to make strength your highest stat, followed by constitution and dexterity. This is because strength is the stat that is responsible for your damage output, and constitution is the stat most associated with hit points. Most barbarians utilize strength-based weapons, though they're known to toss the odd javelin every now and again, and they gain proficiency with all types of weapons. As they level, barbarians gain the ability to have advantage on an increasing number of attacks, advantage on dexterity saving throws, faster movement, advantage on initiative rolls, extra damage dice on critical strikes, and improved rage. If you're new to the game, then these features may not mean much to you. Translated, they basically mean that you become the boss when it comes to melee combat. You're usually the first to the front line, swinging your mighty weapons with little regard for the damage you take. This class pairs well with races that are prone to tribal culture, such as Goliaths, half-orcs, and humans, but you're definitely not limited to these few. I recommend picking whatever race suits your role-playing style the best. There are always small factions of different cultures that have been lost to time, exiled, or simply isolated. These factions can make for the perfect barbarian, as time spent in the wilderness can reduce a person to their more primal instincts. If you're still not sure which race to select, I recommend taking a look at the Forgotten Realms wiki to get a feel for the personality of each race. Once you have a better understanding of how they interact with the world, you'll be able to put yourself into your character's shoes to see which race fits them best. Now, let's go over each of the subclasses in the Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The Path of the Berserker is for those who want to put out as much damage as possible with no regard for their personal safety. Berserkers gain the Frenzied Rage ability, which allows them to use a bonus action to make a single melee attack. However, when Frenzied Rage expires, the Barbarian gains one level of exhaustion, which can be extremely detrimental depending on the situation. Additionally, as they level, they become immune to charm and frighten conditions while they're raging. The Intimidating Presence ability enables the Berserker to choose a nearby enemy and force them to make a wisdom saving throw, becoming frightened of the Barbarian on a failed save. Finally, Berserkers are able to use their reaction to make a melee weapon attack when struck by another creature. You should choose the Path of the Berserker if you're looking to make the ultimate warrior, always first into the fray and last to leave it. You'll get a ton of attacks against your enemies, but you won't have many options other than to seek bloodshed at every turn. For this reason, the Path of the Berserker has an extremely straightforward and simple playstyle. You may suffer from injuries, become exhausted, or get lost looking for the bathroom, but you're the best with every single type of weapon, and you know it. The Path of the Totem Warrior is for a more spiritual barbarian. These warriors of the wilderness are deeply connected to different types of animals, which grant them a variety of benefits. At the early levels, Totem Warriors gain the Beast Sense and Speak with Animals abilities, which enables them to communicate with their wild brethren. They are offered the opportunity to choose from 3 different types of animals to gain more benefits: bear, eagle, and wolf. The bear is the defensive option, the eagle grants swiftness and good eyesight, while the wolf gives strength to the barbarian's allies and hunting sense. Totem Warriors make these selections at 3 different levels, and are able to mix and match the different animal options to their liking. You should select the path of the Totem Warrior if you're looking to make a slightly more balanced barbarian. The mix of abilities that you gain as you level will give you many options other than Smash. You'll probably still be the first into the fray, but your wider range of abilities and party buffs will give you a much more complex playstyle than the Berserker. The path of the Ancestral Guardian is for barbarians who revere a particular ancestor. These barbarians gain benefits from invisible ancestral protectors who appear when the barbarian goes into a rage. At first, they impose disadvantage on an enemy who chooses not to attack the barbarian. At later levels, Ancestral Guardians have the ability to reduce incoming damage to a friendly target, to use the Augury and Clairvoyance spells, and to hit their enemies with force damage. You should choose the path of the Ancestral Guardian if you're looking for a barbarian who is devoted to a particular ancestor. This ancestor could be an ancient relative, a great warrior, or even a deity. Ancestral Guardians want to be on the front lines, battling near their allies, but they always keep a keen eye out for chances to reduce incoming damage. These abilities grant a bit more complexity to barbarian gameplay, but at the end game, Ancestral Guardians will still have fewer options than the Totem Warrior. The path of the Storm Herald is for barbarians who come from extremely difficult climates. During the early levels, you gain a Storm Aura which surrounds you while you rage. At level 3, you select from a few different environments which will determine the benefits that you gain as you level. At level 3, you will select from a few different environments which determine the benefits you gain as you level. The Desert option will give extra fire damage to enemies in your aura, resistance to fire, and the ability to deal fire damage to an enemy once per turn on a failed dexterity save. The Sea option grants the ability to deal lightning damage on a failed save, resistance to lightning damage, and the ability to knock enemies prone. Finally, the Tundra option enables you to reduce incoming damage to one player, resistance to cold damage, and the ability to reduce an enemy's movement to 0 during the turn when you activate Rage. You should choose the path of the Storm Herald if you're looking to make a barbarian with a little bit of magic in their blood. These barbarians will have many more options than the Berserker, but significantly fewer than the Totem Warrior. One interesting thing about the Storm Herald is that they're not limited to non-magical melee damage. So, if you go up against an enemy with resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, at least some of your abilities will still deal full damage. The path of the Zealot attracts barbarians with a little bit of divine power. At early levels, the first creature you hit on a turn will suffer extra damage, and the barbarian gets to determine if this damage is necrotic or radiant. Additionally, spells that return the barbarian to life do not require materials, which can save your party a ton of valuable resources. As they level, Zealots are able to reroll a saving throw once per rage, grant allies advantage on saving throws for 1 round, and shrug off fatal blows. Similar to the Storm Herald's ability to deal elemental damage on each turn, the Zealot's ability to choose between necrotic or radiant can help them against enemies with resistance to non-magical damage. However, the Zealot's lack of skill proficiencies give them a fairly straightforward playstyle, with melee attacks being the primary option. You should choose the path of the Storm Herald if you're looking to make a barbarian who is devoted to a particular god. This could give you a wider variety of role-playing options, and may even bring you into conflict with some of the enemies of your chosen deity. My number 1 role-playing tip for barbarians is to avoid the strong and silent type. While this is a totally valid character choice, it may make it a little bit difficult for the other characters at the table. You may run into issues in an extended campaign as your allies get invested with downtime activities, leaving your barbarian lonely and bored. In order to avoid this character type, make sure to give your barbarian at least one thing they are deeply connected to, whether it's nature, loyalty to their companions, or even a lust for loot. This connection ensures your barbarian will have some sort of moral compass and won't be too out of place when the group inevitably visits the capital city. Finally, remember that barbarians are survivalists above all else. Their primal instincts have been honed over long periods of time spent in the wilderness. Though they may be quick to enter a furious rage, barbarians know how to take care of themselves and their allies. And they may even have a soft spot for cute, furry animals. The 3 feats that I recommend most for barbarians are Great Weapon Master, Mobile, and Sentinel. Great Weapon Master allows the player to decide whether their attacks will suffer a -5 penalty in exchange for an extra 10 damage on a hit. This feat is highly effective at lower levels when monsters tend to have low AC and few hit points. Great Weapon Master combines very well with Reckless Attack, as the advantage you get on your rolls to hit will often offset the decrease in accuracy. This feat also offers the Barbarian a little more complexity in their playstyle, as at higher levels you'll need to determine whether that extra damage is worth the increased chance to miss. The Mobile feat increases the Barbarian's movement speed, as you may expect, but it also prevents enemies who have been hit by the Barbarian from making an opportunity attack against them. This enables the Barbarian to move fluidly about the battlefield without suffering extra attacks. This effect combines very well with abilities that are meant to help your allies, such as the Storm Herald's aura and the Ancestral Guardian's ability to reduce incoming damage. Therefore, Mobile adds a lot more complexity to the Barbarian playstyle, as you'll now be thinking about the battlefield in a much more strategic manner. Finally, the Sentinel feat allows the Barbarian to reduce an enemy's movement speed to 0 when the Barbarian hits them with an opportunity attack. Additionally, enemies can no longer take the disengage action to move away from the Barbarian without suffering an opportunity attack. And when an enemy makes an attack against a nearby creature, the Barbarian can use their reaction to make an attack against them. This feat, especially when combined with the other feats mentioned in this video, can make the Barbarian into a true battlefield strategist. You'll need to tactically decide how and when to use your reaction on each turn, how to prevent your allies from suffering attacks, and how best to deal damage to your foes. If you're looking to make a Barbarian but want a little more complex playstyle, make sure to check out all of the feats available to see what you can have your Barbarian do. These are just a few of the many feats listed in the player's handbook. I hope you've enjoyed our overview of the D&D 5th edition Barbarian. If you did, or if I missed anything, make sure to leave me a comment below. Don't forget to brutally crit that subscribe button, as I will be going over every D&D class in this format. Until next time, stay curious, adventurers.